It's the holiday season, my favorite time of year because it is the season of giving. And in the spirit of this Giving Tuesday, I've taken some time to sit down and reflect on my 2019 and think about all of the projects that I've had the honor of taking part in. After looking back on the year so far, I've realized that 2019 has become the year that I'm most thankful for in my career. Now, to set this all up a little bit, going into 2019, it was not part of my plan to focus on nonprofits or cause-based businesses. Actually, I just wanted to do a project that I could look back on and be very proud of. I will admit, however, when I envisioned this project, I thought I would be able to bask in the glory of a highly produced Super Bowl-worthy commercial. Well, fast forward to the end of November, and that project has still not happened. Actually, quite the opposite has unfolded. Since January, I've had the honor of producing several eye-opening and impactful pieces of content, all which required my team to be incredibly scaled down and nimble. We were traveling a lot on these productions, and we were forced to leave our 14-foot box truck full of professional-grade equipment back here at the studio. You see, from the mind of a producer slash cinematographer slash director, when you know you have an arsenal full of tools capable of pulling off almost any production, the thought of leaving all of that behind and potentially compromising production quality, it's a very tough pill to swallow. Especially when I went into 2019 putting all of these stipulations around the project that I was going to be proud of, and all of those stipulations had to deal with production quality. But nonetheless, this is what my team and I are here to do: create compelling content and help tell impactful stories. And I want to tell you about a few of the projects I had the honor of getting to produce content for in 2019. The very first nonprofit event that I helped produce content for was called the Beloved Benefit, a benefit put on to help restore and reunite the west side of Atlanta. It was held at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I can't even put into words how crazy and huge this event was, and seeing it all come together. I played a very small role in helping produce the content, but the role that I did play allowed me to see the behind the scenes of every aspect of this event coming together. And what made it so special was seeing everyone really genuinely and sincerely care about the end goal and the overall mission. And I'm excited to say that they raised over $5 million in one night to help restore the west side of Atlanta. In Wisconsin, I got to know Amy, the woman behind A Doll Like Me, and what she's doing just warms my heart. And she does it all from her dining room and her kitchen. I'm actually going to read part of a message that she sent me. She says, first of all, these filmmakers are pretty incredible, not to mention a lot of fun. They treated these stories with compassion, dignity, and thoughtfulness. It's hard to explain how unique their sensitivity and integrity was. Honestly, anyone can tell a story, but you have to believe in the mission and be moved by what you are doing to make an impact and change the narrative. It can change how we see people. What I love most about this piece is that they touched on two of the most important aspects of healthcare for children: emotional and mental well-being. I read that message to brag a little bit, but to also say to Amy that you being a true beacon of light for the children that you're supporting, and an inspiration to other nonprofits of what can be done. Thank you so much for your kind words, but no one would be able to believe in your mission as much if you weren't a true display of what it means to be dedicated to making a difference. While those two projects were happening, we were also helping produce content to promote the first ever Hope Givers Music Festival, put on by the nonprofit Holden On. Now, Tamlin and myself and my business partner have known each other for a few years now, and when Tamlin brought his idea of the music festival to us, we were ecstatic to partner with him and promote content for it. Mental health and suicide prevention are two topics that are very, very important to me as an individual, and I thought Tamlin's approach was very unique to the festival. The day of the music festival was filled with hope and love and togetherness and fun, something that you don't see surrounding the conversation of mental health and suicide prevention. People having very thorough and sincere conversations around mental health in this environment just made me want to do more. And I can't wait to be producing more content for Holding On to help spread the awareness about mental health and suicide prevention. Tamlin, you're absolutely crushing it. Keep doing what you're doing. All right, so these next two really shook my world. The first one being CATDogs, Canine Assisted Therapy Dogs. When we had the preliminary phone call with Courtney from CATDogs, she mentioned an event happening the very next day. Now, I knew that we wouldn't be able to get down and do the actual full production with interviews and everything until a few weeks later, but when she talked about the event, I knew we had to get down there to shoot B-roll for it. So in a few hours, I booked flights, and in 24 hours, we were down there filming this event. I mean, I love dogs. I have two myself. So of course, going down to hang out with dogs was something I was looking forward to, but this event absolutely changed my life. It was put on for the survivors of the Parkland school shooting, and I didn't know that a young gentleman would walk in and someone from CATDogs would come over to me and say, "Hey, he's a survivor from the shooting. Him and his friends were trying to exit the building when two of his friends were gunned down." And right there in that moment, he crouches down, starts to pet the dog. The dog is licking his face. It would have been the most perfect B-roll to highlight what pet therapy looks like. But I just couldn't film. I couldn't raise my camera from my side and focus and get the right angles. I just had to sit there, kind of frozen in my tracks, and observe this young gentleman. As I was observing this, incapable of filming it, his father walked over to the CATDogs team, and I overheard him whisper, "Thank you guys so much for what you're doing. If it weren't for you and your dogs, I don't know if he would have made it through this." I was just frozen in that moment. The emotion was so powerful that was coming in, and the energy just completely shifted from me being down there to highlight what CATDogs is doing and tell their story and their mission. It shifted from that to actually feeling the impact of their mission in a way that I thought I would never be able to relate to. To go from that to also filming them help people cope with going through chemotherapy and cancer treatments. It was just a real kind of perspective shift for me of how powerful pet therapy is, but also just how grateful I am for where I'm at and what I have, and quite honestly and frankly for what I haven't been through. I can't imagine. I really can't imagine, and my hats are off to the entire CATDogs team and their hundreds of volunteers and their dogs for what they're doing and how they're helping their community heal in the aftermath of such tragic circumstances. New Story is a nonprofit that is on a mission to solve all global homelessness, and we partner with their organization to share the story of what happened to the El Espino community, a community of 64 families that had been wrongfully displaced from their homes. These families could barely even get any belongings out of their houses before they were just demolished. I can imagine someone coming into my studio and ripping all of it out and taking every piece of gear that I've worked hard to earn and just taking it from me, and me not being able to do anything about that. The perseverance that these families displayed to be wrongfully pushed and ripped out of their homes to the streets, living in huts made out of scrap tin sheets of metal and tarps with holes in them, and the floor is the earth's dirt. If it rained, all of their belongings would be ruined for days. Spending time with the El Espino community was so eye-opening for me, and a true display of what it means to not be a victim. Instead, to choose to persevere, even when there's very little that they could do to change their circumstances. The objective was to produce 4 pieces of content to be shown at 2 different events, one in Atlanta and one in San Francisco. The purpose was to raise money to help provide sustainable housing for the El Espino community. I'm very pleased to say that we raised close to $2 million in these 2 events, and I'll forever be changed and inspired by my experience in the El Espino community. You see, going into 2019, I had already painted the picture of what the project would look like that I could be proud of. I do believe, however, by the nature of these projects forcing me to let go of some of the bells and whistles, I was put in a position to really appreciate and be thankful for the content and the stories as they were. 2019 is the year that I am most thankful for in my career because my perspective has been constantly shifted and expanded, and my appreciation and gratitude for just life itself has grown enormously. I've never had a year that I've looked back on, and the majority of our projects were all for nonprofits that are doing good and creating change and impact in this world. I know the more we share and promote good, the more good will happen. And together we can slowly make a dent in eradicating the bad going on in the world today. There's so much bad in the world that gets, publicized and all that, but I do think there's more good than bad. And,
Absolutely.
And the more people, like you said, that are using their gifts to spread good, then that's, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, really.